The horizon's edge drifted silently through the endless black of space, its sleek hull reflecting the distant glow of faraway stars. Commander Lena Voss sat in the captain's chair, eyes fixed on the viewscreen as data scrolled past in neat streams of numbers and symbols. For her crew, space was a puzzle, a living challenge of physics, mathematics, and survival. For the aliens who watched from afar, humans were an insignificant speck, barely worth noticing. Lena's ship had left Earth 6 months ago, assigned to explore sectors no human vessel had ever mapped. Their mission was simple in instruction but vast in scope: observe, record, survive, and return. Yet for all the routine of charts, scans, and telemetry, there was an excitement in the unknown that no human could ignore. "Captain," called Ensign Ryan, her young sensor officer, eyes wide behind her console. "I'm picking up anomalies on the starboard flank." Small blips moving fast, almost intelligent. Lena leaned forward, narrowing her eyes. "Are you sure they're not meteor fragments or debris?" "Negative," Ryan replied. "These patterns are too deliberate, too organized, and they're keeping pace with us." Lena's brow furrowed. Humans were cautious by nature. They measured risks, they planned, and they predicted. Yet instincts sometimes whispered louder than reason, and her instincts were shouting now. "Keep monitoring," Lena ordered calmly, though her mind raced. "Do not engage. Let's see what we're dealing with before we react." Unknown to the humans, several million kilometers away, the Xerans had been watching them. To the Xerans, humans were a curiosity, a primitive, fragile species barely capable of interstellar travel. Their technology was crude, their ships slow, and their understanding of advanced space phenomena rudimentary. Tracking a human vessel was supposed to be a simple exercise, a way to study the species, patterns, maybe even capture one for further examination. From the Xeran observation craft, its dark metallic surface glinting against the starlight, an officer commented, "The humans are moving through the nebula too cautiously. They cannot detect us yet. Prepare the stealth drones." Another nodded. "Soon we will know everything about them. Their weaknesses, their limits, they will not escape." Back aboard the horizon's edge, Ryan tapped at her console. The blips had grown more persistent. "Captain, they're mirroring our trajectory now. Almost like they know our every move." Lena considered her options. Standard protocol in such situations was avoidance. Humans rarely sought confrontation with unknown entities. But Lena wasn't just any captain. She had spent years studying strategies, not just for battle but for survival. She smiled faintly. Humans thrived on unpredictability, and sometimes that alone could become a weapon. "Let's see how curious they really are," she murmured. "Open a minor sensor pulse, small, subtle. See if we get a reaction." Minutes passed in tense silence. Then the reading spiked. Someone or something was actively responding to their signals. "Confirmed," Ryan said, eyes wide with astonishment. "They know we're here." Lena didn't smile. Humans respected intelligence when they encountered it, but they also trusted themselves to rise above it. "Good," she said. "Now we know." The crew moved with calm efficiency, each action deliberate yet swift. They were explorers, but every human on board understood the stakes. Space was as beautiful as it was deadly, and unknown hunters were the deadliest of all. The first drone appeared like a flicker on the long-range sensors, nearly invisible against the black void. Its design was alien, angular, smooth, optimized for silent movement. To the Xerans it was a marvel. To humans it was a challenge, a puzzle waiting to be solved. Lena studied the data. "They're watching, yes, but they're also predictable, not as fast as they think. Let's test them." She ordered a course adjustment that took them slightly toward the nebula cluster. Dangerous, treacherous, but humans had something the Xerans didn't anticipate: intuition born of countless calculated risks and adaptability. The ship groaned as its engines pushed through dense ionized gas, sensors flickering, shields straining. Ryan's fingers flew across the console. "Captain, The drones know their signal is delayed. They're having trouble keeping up. Lena leaned back, satisfaction quiet but fierce. Humans were underestimated because they were irrational, or so the aliens believed. But humans thrived in chaos, they adapted, they improvised. The drones, designed for predictable targets, were already behind. Hours passed. The horizon's edge twisted and turned through the nebulous gas, sometimes appearing to flee, other times darting closer, confusing its silent watchers. The crew was tense, but calm. Every maneuver was calculated, every risk weighed against potential gain. Humans were survivors. That had always been their edge. Meanwhile, in the distant Ziran vessel, the alien observers frowned. "They anticipate our moves," one hissed in frustration. "Impossible. Their reaction time, our calculations, everything." "Humans are unpredictable," another said, but without conviction. The first officer didn't want to admit it. Humans were clever, cunning, dangerous in a way Zirans had not considered. On the human ship, Lena called her senior officers together in the small briefing room. Holograms of the drones hovered above the table, glowing faintly against the dim lights. "They think they can track us," Lena said. "They think they know the limits of human intelligence. Let's prove them wrong." Her plan was simple yet daring. They would appear vulnerable, almost panicked, luring the drones into predictable patterns. Then, using a combination of sensor manipulation and subtle maneuvers, they would mislead the Zirans, study their technology, and stay one step ahead. The crew exchanged glances. They trusted Lena, they trusted humanity, and above all, they trusted themselves. Night fell on the observation deck, not that it mattered in space. Stars stretched endlessly, cold and indifferent, and yet full of opportunities. Opportunities humans seized where others feared. Ryan leaned close to Lena. "Do you think they'll realize we're onto them?" Lena smiled faintly. "They'll try, but humans aren't just reactive. We plan, we adapt, and sometimes we set the rules." The first part of the encounter was subtle, an elaborate dance of observation and counter-observation. Each side studied the other, but only one could truly claim mastery: humanity. As the ship glided deeper into the nebula, the first faint signs of human ingenuity began to show. Small sensor echoes disguised energy pulses, subtle course deviations, all invisible to the naked eye, all designed to mislead. In their quiet confidence, the humans did not see themselves as hunters. Yet, unknowingly, they were already beginning to turn the hunt around. The Zirans believed they were studying prey. Humans believed they were surviving. And in space, survival often required brilliance, cunning, and courage. By the end of the first day, the horizon's edge had already changed the rules of the game. The Zirans, confident in their superiority, were no longer certain of their advantage. And humans, calm, intelligent, and unpredictable, had begun to make their mark on the hunters. In the silent depths of the nebula, as stars shimmered and cosmic winds whispered through the void, one fact became clear: humans were never just prey. They were something far more dangerous. The nebula stretched around the horizon's edge like a living veil, clouds of glowing gas twisting and writhing as if aware of the intruders. Commander Lena Voss stood at the observation deck, her gaze fixed on the swirling colors. To most, it would have been breathtaking. To her, it was an opportunity. "Captain," Ensign Ryan called urgently, "the drones are increasing their pace. They've adjusted to our last maneuvers. They're not falling behind anymore." Lena's lips pressed into a thin line, predictable. That was the thing about the Zirans. They were intelligent, but their intelligence was rigid. They could anticipate patterns, but humans didn't operate on patterns alone. Humans adapted. Humans improvised. "Let's see how far their rigidity goes," Lena said calmly. "Prepare the decoy systems." The ship's engineering bay buzzed with activity. Humans were not invincible. Their technology was modest compared to the Zirans, but their minds were their greatest weapon. Holographic projectors activated. creating hundreds of energy echoes that mimicked the ship's mass, trajectory, and energy signatures. To a casual observer, or an alien drone, there were dozens of horizon's edges scattered across the nebula. Ryan's fingers danced across the console. Decoys active. Drones are reacting, they're splitting up. Lena smiled faintly. Humans had a saying. The cleverest trick the fox ever pulled was convincing the hunter he was chasing prey that didn't exist. And right now the humans were the fox. Far beyond the nebula the Zirans observed. Confusion flickered across their sleek metallic faces. Impossible, one hissed. They are multiplying. Our sensors are unreliable, another officer growled. Their technology is crude. This cannot be possible. Crude, yes, but humans thought differently. They did not rely on brute force alone. They relied on imagination, improvisation, and the audacity to challenge expectations. Inside the horizon's edge, the crew worked in unison. Every decision, every adjustment was small but precise. The ship wove through the nebula, at times diving into ion storms that would have shredded alien drones with superior shielding, at times skimming the edges of asteroid clusters that would have forced larger vessels to halt. The Ziran drones followed, some faltering, others damaged by the unpredictable hazards. Humans thrived in the chaos. Lieutenant Mara Chen, head of tactical systems, turned to Lena. Captain, if we push further into the dense cluster, we could force the drones into a gravitational anomaly nearby. They won't survive it. Lena nodded thoughtfully. Not yet. Let's learn more first. I want to know everything we can about their technology before we end this. Humans had a curious nature that set them apart from every species the Zirans had encountered. They studied, observed, and experimented. They learned from mistakes, adapted, and improvised, and the aliens did not anticipate it. Hours turned into a tense day. The humans played a dangerous game of cat and mouse. Every time the drones adjusted, the humans altered their approach. Every time the Zirans attempted to outmaneuver them, the humans anticipated a countermeasure, often with several moves ahead. Ryan leaned over the console, her face pale but excited. Captain, I think I understand their tracking method. It's based on energy signature resonance. If we can disrupt it slightly, we can lead them exactly where we want. Lena's eyes gleamed. Good. Prepare the interference pulse. Keep it subtle, just enough to guide them, not destroy them. The humans activated a faint, shifting energy pulse that subtly altered the ship's signature. To the drones, the horizon's edge appeared to drift slightly off course, heading into a narrow corridor of debris and ionized gas. The aliens took the bait, convinced that humans were falling behind or panicking. Inside the ship, tension and excitement mingled. Humans thrived in moments that tested both courage and intellect. While the Zirans relied on technology alone, humans relied on ingenuity. Captain, Lieutenant Chen said, they're following, all of them. Entire drone's fleet is moving straight into the cluster. Lena's smile was quiet but triumphant. Just as planned. Let's see how adaptable they really are. As the drones entered the dense cluster, one by one, they began to falter. Their shields overloaded from unexpected ion interference, their navigation systems scrambled by debris. A few drones were damaged beyond repair, others slowed, struggling to maintain formation. Humans moved through the same space with astonishing precision, anticipating every hazard and adjusting in real time. The Zirans, watching from afar, could not comprehend it. They shouldn't be able to survive this, one screamed. Their technology, it is not the technology, another interrupted. It is intelligence, adaptability, cunning. Impossible, they are learning too fast, and learning they were. The humans studied the drones' behavior, noting how they reacted to different maneuvers. By observing, they adapted. By adapting, they stayed ahead. By staying ahead, they taught the aliens a lesson they were not prepared to learn. Humans were not predictable, and their minds were their deadliest weapon. Hours of relentless pursuit and maneuvering turned into a subtle game of dominance. Humans set traps with precision, lured drones into dangerous zones, studied their weaknesses. Each encounter revealed more about the Xerans' methods, and the humans adjusted, improved, evolved. Captain Lena gathered the senior officers in the briefing room. Holographic projections of the drones and nebula streamed above the table. We know how they track us, we know how they respond to danger, and we know their limits. The next step is simple. We turn the hunt into a lesson. Lieutenant Chen nodded. We can lead them into the gravitational anomaly. Minimal risk to us, maximum impact on them. Lena studied the swirling nebula on the observation deck. Humans were always at their best when danger was highest. It was a core part of their nature, to rise above fear, to think beyond limitations, to survive where others failed. And now, the Xerans were about to learn it the hard way. The humans adjusted their course, deliberately slowing near the anomaly, leaving faint trails that mimicked hesitation. The drones followed, confident that they were finally closing in on their quarry. "Captain," Ryan whispered, "they're right behind us, all of them." "They think they've trapped us," Lena nodded. "Good. Let's see who truly controls the hunt." With subtle calculations, the humans guided the drones deeper into the gravitational anomaly. The field was unstable, chaotic, and deadly. Any species relying solely on rigid calculations would falter, and the Xerans did. Drones collided with invisible currents, shields overloaded, and systems failed. One by one, they became disabled, stranded in the swirling chaos. From the Xeran command ship, panic spread. "Recall them, they cannot survive this. Recall them." But it was too late. The humans were not only surviving, they were controlling the battlefield. Every move was calculated yet fluid, adaptive yet daring. Humans were never just reactive. They anticipated, improvised, and led. Inside the horizon's edge, the crew watched as the last few drones struggled and then ceased activity. Silence stretched across the ship. For humans, it was a calm victory, a lesson delivered without direct confrontation, without unnecessary risk. Lena turned to her officers. "This is what humans do best. We survive, we adapt, and sometimes we teach." Ryan laughed softly, relief and excitement mingling. "We turned the hunt around without even firing a shot." "Yes," Lena said, "humans don't always fight with weapons. Sometimes the mind is the strongest weapon of all." For the first time, the Xerans hesitated. They had studied countless species, confident in their superiority. Yet humans had defied expectation at every turn. They had turned a trap into a lesson. They had turned hunters into students. The nebula shimmered around the horizon's edge, silent witness to the human victory. Humans were underestimated because their ingenuity was not bound by predictability. They were underestimated because they were clever, daring, and unpredictable. And the Xerans were learning that intelligence alone did not guarantee dominance. Commander Lena stood at the observation deck, staring into the endless stars. Humans were explorers, survivors, and above all, clever beyond expectation. And in the silent, infinite void of space, one truth was becoming clear. No species should ever underestimate a human. The first phase of the encounter was over, but the humans knew it was only the beginning. The Xerans had survived to learn, and the humans had survived to teach. And as they prepared for the next step, one fact resonated through the minds of every crew member. Humans were never prey. They were always more than that. They were hunters, thinkers, and survivors. The horizon's edge sailed through the glowing tendrils of the nebula, its hull shimmering in the refracted starlight. The humans aboard had survived the first wave of the Xeran pursuit and had cleverly turned the hunters' own methods against them. Yet Commander Lena Voss knew the real test was only beginning. "The Xerans are reorganizing," Lieutenant Mara Chen said, scanning the main console. "They've sent out reinforcements. Smaller, faster drones and their command ship is approaching the cluster's edge. Lena frowned. Humans had a saying, "Fortune favors the bold, but courage without strategy is chaos." They had been bold and they had survived. Now strategy would decide the outcome. "All right," Lena said, voice calm but firm. "They think they've learned our patterns. They think we're predictable. Let's prove them wrong. Prepare the reverse trap." The crew nodded, each officer understanding without needing further explanation. They had worked together through countless simulations, drills, and real dangers. Trust in one another was unspoken, yet absolute. The reverse trap was a simple concept with devastating complexity. The humans would create the illusion of panic, drawing the Xeran drones and their command ship into a region dense with spatial anomalies. But hidden within that region was a precise path, a corridor of safety that only humans could navigate. The Xerans, confident in their superiority, would not anticipate the cunning of the human mind. Ensign Ryan tapped a series of commands into the sensors. All decoys online. Minor sensor echoes projecting multiple false courses. Energy signatures subtly altered. They won't know which is real. Lena's gaze hardened. "Good, let's begin." The horizon's edge altered its course slightly, engines humming in measured power. The decoys scattered, dozens of holographic echoes dancing through the nebula, each one perfectly mimicking human movement. The Xeran drones surged forward, splitting to follow each echo, their command ship attempting to monitor the chaos. Inside the human ship, the crew watched as the trap unfolded. Sensors displayed drone after drone being guided toward the corridor, unaware of the gravitational eddies and ion storms surrounding it. A few misjudged, others collided with invisible debris, their shields overloading. The humans were calm, their faces serene despite the life-and-death stakes. Lieutenant Chen could not hide her grin. "They're falling for it, Captain. Every last one of them." Lena nodded quietly. "Not every last one. Leave a few to witness the lesson." The few remaining drones followed with cautious precision, unaware that they were heading straight toward a subtle but deadly anomaly. Humans thrived where precision met improvisation, and every meter of this trap had been calculated to perfection. The Xeran command ship hovered at the edge of the chaos, scanning, calculating. They had expected humans to panic, to react predictably. They had not expected subtle strategy, clever improvisation, and above all, unpredictability. "Impossible," one Xeran officer hissed. "Their survival, their intelligence, it defies all logic." The humans, however, were not listening to their enemies. They were focused, coordinated, and ready. They had turned observation into opportunity, fear into strategy, and now the hunter would become the hunted. Ryan monitored the final drones. "Captain, they're entering the anomaly. All systems functioning, no casualties yet. We just need to maintain the course." Lena took a deep breath. "Engage the final guidance pulse. Make it subtle but unavoidable." A faint energy ripple pulsed through the nebula, imperceptible to the alien sensors but unmistakable to the human ship. The Xeran drones, guided by their own assumptions, veered closer to the gravitational turbulence. One by one they began to falter, shields overloading, engines straining, systems failing. From the command ship the Xerans could do nothing but watch. "Recall them, immediately." But the humans had anticipated that command. Subtle interference with the alien communications ensured that the recall signals never reached the drones. The hunters were trapped in their own confidence, powerless to stop the humans who had outthought them at every turn. Inside the horizon's edge, the crew moved like a single organism. Every adjustment, every command was executed with precision. Humans had a reputation for improvisation, but it was discipline married to creativity that allowed them to survive against impossible odds. Lena watched the displays, noting each drone's fate. Most were disabled or stranded. The few remaining drones retreated, confused and hesitant, their calculated superiority shattered by human unpredictability. The Xeran command ship, now isolated and cautious, hovered at the cluster's edge. Its officers had never faced a species like this. Humans were not merely clever, they were audacious, daring, and adaptive. They did not act out of fear or impulse. They acted with purpose, intelligence, and confidence. Ryan broke the silence. "Captain, they're still watching. The command ship, it's sending a message. They want a truce, or they want to understand." Lena's lips curved into a faint smile. "Let them come closer. They will learn more than they ever expected." The humans adjusted the ship, aligning it perfectly within a safe corridor through the nebula. It was a narrow path, one that required skill, timing, and nerves of steel. Humans thrived under such conditions. The Xerans, arrogant and overconfident, would struggle. As the alien ship advanced cautiously, humans prepared the final phase. Subtle energy signatures, sensor echoes, and calculated maneuvers created a perfect illusion. The humans appeared vulnerable, exposed, and trapped. The Xerans were drawn in, compelled by their own curiosity and desire to dominate. Inside the command ship, Lena gave the order: activate the countermeasure sequence. A series of synchronized pulses rippled outward, invisible to alien eyes but clear in their effect. The Xeran sensors misread the humans' positions, their drones faltered further, and their command ship experienced minor system disruptions, enough to make them hesitate. For the first time, the Xerans realized the truth. Humans were not prey. They were not weak. They were not predictable. Humans were cunning hunters in their own right, capable of outthinking, outmaneuvering, and outlasting even the most advanced alien technology. Ryan breathed a sigh of relief. "Captain, it's done. They're retreating." Lena nodded. "Yes. They have learned a lesson. We did not need weapons to win. We did not need violence. We needed intelligence, courage, and adaptability. That is what makes humans humans." The Xeran fleet pulled back, wary and unsure. They had expected to study, to dominate, to learn from prey. Instead, they had learned from humans in a way they could not have imagined. Their calculations had failed, their assumptions shattered, and their perception of superiority forever altered. On the horizon's edge, the crew allowed themselves a moment of quiet triumph. Humans had survived, humans had adapted, humans had taught. Lena gazed out at the swirling nebula, the glow of distant stars reflecting in her eyes. Humans had a saying: "In the face of danger, courage and intelligence shine brightest." Today, that saying had proven true. She turned to her officers. "Remember this moment. Remember what we have done. Humans are not defined by the limits of our technology, but by the limits of our imagination, our courage, and our will to survive. Today, we have shown the universe what it truly means to be human." Lieutenant Chen smiled, pride shining in her eyes. "We didn't just survive, Captain. We taught them without firing a single shot." Ryan added softly, "And they'll remember us. They'll never underestimate humans again." Lena nodded, satisfaction and quiet pride settling in her chest. Humans were explorers, thinkers, and survivors. They were underestimated at their peril. In the vast, infinite darkness of space, one truth now resonated clearly. Humanity was unpredictable, clever, and unstoppable when their survival and intellect were challenged. The horizon's edge continued its journey through the nebula, the stars stretching endlessly around them. Humans had faced the hunter and had emerged victorious. Not through brute force, not through numbers, not through superior technology, but through courage, ingenuity, and an unbreakable will. And as the humans sailed on, the Xerans retreated, forever altered by the encounter. In the quiet glow of the nebula, Commander Lena Voss allowed herself a small, confident smile. Humanity had proven something fundamental: no species should ever underestimate a human. Because humans, when cornered, when tested, when challenged, could turn the hunter into the hunted. And humanity had done exactly that.